Hey, you guys, I wanted to come on here and talk about this article that I found on Atlanta Black Star. It briefly discusses the situation that happened with the black man who knocked a man out from the larger society with a twisted tea can. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, there was a situation that occurred during the later part of December where a black man walked into a convenience store or a gas station to purchase some tea and possibly some other products. And when he gets to the counter, he encounters a man from a larger society being disrespectful, discourteous, uncivilized, and just barbaric. And he keeps viciously throwing out the N word in a verbally abusive way with malicious intent. And it caused that black man to react by hitting the man against the face with the same can of tea that he was about to buy. And I can't show the video here because I don't want to risk my channel being flagged for inciting violence, but you guys can easily Google it and see the video. I mean, he definitely knocked that guy out pretty hard. And so now it's been trending all over social media. The memes are everywhere with the cans of tea. Some of them are absolutely hilarious, I have to admit. But overall, when you analyze this situation, black people are starting to get to a point now where they're tired of constantly being mistreated and mishandled in these public outings and other situations. I mean, look at the case involving Grammy Award winning trumpet player Keon Harold and his son. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with this story, there was an incident that again happened in the later part of December 2020 where a woman from a larger society tried to accuse Keon Harold Jr., which is Keon Harold's son, of theft because she said that apparently he stole her iPhone. And by the way, doesn't this give you guys Emmett Till vibes? Like, seriously, white women have the history of doing this where they will accuse black people of some heinous crime with absolutely no proof. And then here comes this manager from her community defending her, not even realizing that she perpetrated the entire situation. But like I've discussed in a lot of my videos, these men will give their women protection regardless of if she's in the wrong or not because they are very community minded and race loyal, meaning that even if she is in the wrong, it makes no difference to him because it will reflect poorly on him if he does nothing to defend the woman from his community. But anyway, this cave woman with a ferocious nature decided that she was going to attack this man's son, who was literally bothering no one. And one thing I'm glad that the father did was stand firm because a lot of these women perceive black men to be passive and very docile. So it intimidates them to a degree when you don't back down from their hostile ways. And I found the last part of their statement to be cringeworthy, and I'm not sure why we can never stand 100% in our blackness unapologetically. But he penned a note that said, with that being said, let's make sure we aren't doing what we are fighting against, which is accusing a woman before she is proven guilty. What in the world are you talking about? The entire situation was filmed. That woman was the main antagonist of that situation. And this is why I try to hold off on making these videos because I try to wait and see how situations will play out. A lot of our people have this annoying habit of giving their attackers from the larger society some benefit of the doubt or outright forgive them for whatever wrongdoing was brought forward to them. And I guarantee you, if the shoe was on the other foot, that same level of sympathy would not be extended to you. They would push for you to rot under the prison. But hopefully, with this story I'm covering, there won't be any form of ridiculous statements of forgiveness or let's educate these people. No, that BS should have been left in 2020. Another issue that I grow increasingly tired with is the fact that legal action isn't taken against these people when they harm us or disturb our peace because all that does is indirectly reinforce their behavior of antagonizing us as a collective. And it also says a lot about what society thinks of black men, as evidenced in the story with the tea can. The larger society feels so emboldened to approach us because they're aware that no form of consequences will come to them. And since we forgive or do very little to actually combat these instances, they feel black men obviously are more unreceptive to situations of injustice. And if you guys actually go and watch that video, you'll see what I mean. This man from the larger society and all of his arrogance and entitlement felt as though he had the right to completely disrespect this black man. And it begs the question of what type of environment that we have facilitated for ourselves for these people to approach us with this level of impertinence. But I'll cover this more towards the end to really emphasize and hopefully help us to understand why these social behaviors present such a threat to our community. But for now, I do want to cover this article. Again, it's by Atlanta Black Star. And this is going to talk about the black man explaining why he hit this guy with the tea can. And I don't think he needs to explain, but let's just see what he has to say here. So the article starts off by saying, a black man who went viral on social media after video footage showed him slapping a white man with a can of Twisted Tea for repeatedly using the N word is telling what motivated him to do so. In December, Barry Allen of Elrea, Ohio, got into a confrontation in a convenience store with a white man who kept using the N word despite Allen asking him not to. The white man continues to carry on saying, I say N word all day, every day. Are you kidding me? Where are you from, N word? The white man said. The video shows Allen getting increasingly upset, and at one point he grabs his can of tea. When the white man asks Allen if he planned to hit him with it, Allen mistakenly dropped the tea on the floor and the white man kicked at it. Then Allen picked it up from the floor and forcefully slapped the man with the can, exploding its content with a loud sound, and knocking him to the floor, and proceeded to punch him and restrain him. The white man shortly changes his tune, and then Allen asks him if he's good. So a lot has already been said here, and I'll try to summarize and provide commentary at the same time. First off, I don't know what's going on in Ohio right now because just last month, Andre Hill was killed by police in Columbus. And I've had some subscribers from Ohio tell me that in some circumstances, the racism there is basically almost on par with the racism in the southern region of the United States. Then you had Tamir Rice's situation, which they ruled that no charges will be brought forth with the officer who killed him. And so I'm inclined to believe my Ohio subscribers when they say this. And I also want to tell you guys and other black people up there to be very careful. I will say that for me in that situation, it would have been difficult for me to show that level of restraint because I have a certain energy about me where people right off are usually intimidated by my appearance alone. And so these situations have luckily not occurred in my presence, but if it did, I would not hesitate to back down. However, I will say he was strategic in waiting for the other man to strike him first. A lot of us do make that mistake of attacking first, which usually causes us to be in the disadvantaged position. But if we wait for them to make contact with us first, it's fair game, which when you watch that video, you clearly see that man kicking at him. So he had every right in that moment to react the way he did. Another thing I'm not about to be asking is if you're good, especially if your intentions were to cause harm to me. And that touches more into the point I talked to you guys about as far as forgiveness. But like I said, I'll explain this part closer to the conclusion of this video. So moving on, the article says, in an interview with the Mark One Sports Show published on December 30th, Allen, who's become known as TKO, explained his actions. He told the host the white man was calling the two black employees the N-word when he first entered the Circle K where the incident happened. He said he initially tried to ignore it, but the white man remained belligerent. I'm like, all right, let's just hope he leaves by the time I get up there, so I ignored it, he said. Head to the front, and he's still there, still saying the word like he was just a normal black guy having fun with all his buddies, just chilling. And you could tell by the employees' faces, they wasn't really feeling it. But they can't say nothing because that'll put their job on the line. Me, I didn't feel that way. I'm like, come on, bro, stop saying the word. Why are you shouting N-word, bro? A married father of five, one of whom has special needs, Allen said the man persisted. He's like, man, I say N-word whenever I want. Leave me alone, Allen continued. I'm like, come on, stop saying the effing word. You're really making me mad. Okay, so another part that I found to be an issue was when he initially came into the convenience store, he already heard the man hurling racial epithets at the black employees at the counter and then ignored it. The problem with this is that it helps to add to that imagery that black men are passive and don't act in situations where they should step in. When you turn your back on people who need your help, it makes you look very weak and cowardly, especially if you have the capability to intervene. You clearly have two black employees who could really have used your help sooner and you chose to ignore it. That part didn't sit right with me at all. And when he finally approaches this man from the larger society, he demands for him to stop saying it. And of course, that's not enough to make him stop saying it. A fraction of this we have to hold ourselves accountable for because I see a lot of times in social media and real life situations, black people giving out these N-word passes, and it's one of the most disgusting behaviors that I've ever observed. I'm not sure why black people would want so desperately to be degraded and referred to as dehumanizing words in context, but that might be in part due to the 400 years of psychological conditioning that we've gone through. I digress because some of us are not as susceptible to this as others. And like I said, I have a very stern demeanor and presence where most people feel my energy when I come into an environment where they acquire respect. until I'm out of whatever space was being occupied. And I've also come to the conclusion that people from the larger society, in some ways, express childlike behavior. And what I mean by this is if you tell them not to say something because of how culturally offensive it is, they'll do the exact opposite and recite word from word every word you tell them is insensitive. Children sometimes typically have natures and patterns of behaviors that indicate that they rebel and oppose authority. And while this may not be the case with every child, it surely is a form of conduct that with age does not always go away. I think it's safe to say that the way we approach situations and our timing needs improvement, but let me read more of this. So it says, Allen said it was also the day before his mother's 2-year death anniversary, and the man also said, F your mama during the altercation. That really got me because I'm already in an aggravated state by that time. He said N word like 8 times, Allen said. Before he knew it, Allen said he'd snap. That's when I pick it, the tea can up, and he goes to kick it. He really didn't kick me, but I felt the kick coming. So I just reacted at that point, he explained. The bystander who recorded and uploaded the video gave him a high five, Allen said. Social media lit up with memes and commentary on the video. Allen's wife even created a Twitter with the handle at official Miss TKO. Many social media users said Allen was their hero, especially since he shares a name with the DC Comics character The Flash. There were some who said Allen wasn't wise to commit felony assault on video, yet others said it was self-defense in their book. Like I said before, you guys, to some degree I give this man credit because after the mom comments, I definitely would have exploded and restraint would be non-existent for me in that situation. But one thing about people from the larger society is they are masters of manipulating your emotions. They can say things that may cause you to become filled with rage or paint a narrative in which you are villainous when you are simply responding to an undesirable experience. And either way, the black man's response to this blatant racism was warranted. Not only was this man from the larger society being overly obnoxious and grotesque with his behavior, he demonstrated that he was heartless and unrelenting in his criticisms while boastfully displaying this egotistical display of depravity which is subhuman. The other thing that I felt was annoying about social media's response was that typical, predictable, and calculating interactions that thought that this wasn't a wise decision. When you are dealing with a decision of this magnitude, you have to understand that emotions in this situation heavily overpower any rationale you have. Sure, it's easy for a lot of people to say that he should have just walked away, but put yourself in that situation. If you lost a parent and simultaneously are being degraded with racial expletives, you are not going to just walk away. And I actually think he did the right thing. What we fail to realize is that society will already have its judgments about you regardless of what you do. And so you might as well make a decision that will send a message to those who think to display that behavior again towards you. And in case you haven't noticed, society through its media portrays black men as aggressive and violent even before this situation happened. And so I say that to say, let people have their opinions and talk because they don't know your situation enough to be able to speak on what you had to endure over the course of some challenging situation. And there isn't much left after this, so I'll just go ahead and finish reading the rest of the article. So it says, Black dude should have just walked away. It wasn't worth it. Committing felony assault on this video, one user wrote. Thank your husband for all of us who feel the N word when they say, like, hashtag Twisted T felt when he caught his hands. The law needs to allow us to defend ourselves from them weaponizing that word. That was self defense to me, wrote another Twitter user. Allen said the man did not press charges, and Allen has been on an unexpected press tour promoting anti racism since the incident. The latest tweet from his wife's account implies supporters have helped the family purchase a new vehicle. She also said the work they are doing now is in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. Please stop instigating the situation. Spread awareness, not hate. We are doing just that. Every interview we are doing is in support for the BLM movement. The fact we are in 2020 and this is still a factor and explaining it to our children, open your eyes and be an example, Allen's wife tweeted. One thing I will say that actually caught me off guard about this story is that the man from the larger society did not press charges because that's typically their first course of action is to ensure they are absolute in their wrath towards us. I think it could be a ploy too, just to save face, because clearly we saw the whole video and he was the antagonist, and so it might not have held any weight in a court of law. But I will say that I think some litigation should have at least been attempted on behalf of the black man. It never hurts to seek legal counsel from a black attorney or lawyer to see if any charges can be brought against a man, especially regarding this type of scenario where racism was a heavy factor. The next part of this I had a problem with is where his wife said to stop instigating the situation and that they were trying to spread awareness, not hate. This is incredibly annoying when we speak like this because, again, it reinforces that narrative that black people, once again, are submissive and inert when it comes to situations of racial injustice. This man caused your husband harm, and the first thing you do is say, stop instigating the hate and bring awareness. I just want to know, what is there to be made aware of? If you don't understand the history of this country and the current climate that we're in and how it came to be, then it's because you choose to ignore it or you've been hiding under a rock for the past 4 centuries because there isn't a single person in this world who is unaware of what's going on. Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, all of these names you're telling me did not bring any form of awareness. Why does this seem like such a docile and weak approach? And plus, my interpretation of this is that people are more so making light of the situation with the memes and comic relief. This does not spread hate in any way. So that statement was confusing and off putting to me. And I feel like his wife's statement was very cookie cutter, the safe social justice warrior tweet that really acts as another form of symbolism. And look, if that was what makes you all sleep better at night, then by all means heed the message. It's just not indicative of any real tangible action to me. This same message we've already been explaining to our children for several generations now, in fact, since the fruition of this country. Earlier in this video, I talked about how black people have this exasperating habit of forgiving those who cause them harm, and it almost always causes us to regret our decision later. Part of this is due to our religious affiliations, where some religions, such as Christianity, teaches you that you should forgive your enemies, and that was always counterintuitive to me. This same mechanism has been exploited and serves as more of a liability to our community because the same forgiveness is never extended to our own people. With our own people, we hold grudges over $20. We can never let situations go where another black person has caused us harm. And so I feel like this religion is nonsensical because that same principles that are expressed in it regarding forgiveness strangely do not translate to our own people. And disclaimer, of course, because some of you by this point have already formed your opinions based on what I just said. If this situation does not apply to you, then you should already know what it is. I'm more so speaking on the ones that the criteria applies to. And my point of this is to stop explaining, stop giving them these small passes by making your message kind and heartwarming and filled with these educational learning moments. They don't care about any of that crap. This is not going to go away just because some racial situations go viral. Racism is the source of where these problems originate from. And as long as we continue to be nice and not address it the way we need to, it's going to persist. The point is this: do not explain yourself. We talk all day about being black unapologetically, yet we explain our every move. We say pro black doesn't mean anti white, and the only reason you all say that is to coddle the feelings of your oppressors, which I refuse to do, and is the reason why I don't adhere to that word. We also conflate social justice efforts with revolutionary, and I constantly make mention of how these two concepts are not the same. They are not interchangeable because one is about action while the other takes symbolic efforts and gestures which produces no substantial results for our community. But in conclusion, I do applaud this black man for standing his ground and defending himself from this barbarian, and hopefully more of us move accordingly when these situations happen to us. Let me know what you guys think on this. Do you think his approach was appropriate, or do you think he should have walked away? How would you have handled yourself if you were in this situation? Make sure you weigh in below in the comments section. Make sure you like, comments, and subscribe and share this video. Thank you guys so much for your continued support, and I will see you guys next time.